Welcome to the Refine and Shine, the podcast dedicated to mastering the art of continuous improvement and optimizing every aspect of your life. I'm Angelina Rivera, your host, and together we'll uncover the secrets to refining our lives, our habits, and our processes to unlock our inner brilliance. Join us on Refine and Shine, where we'll delve deep into achieving more in life without the burnout and without all the stress. This podcast is your platform for a more fulfilling life through continuous improvement and personal growth. In each episode, I and a diverse array of guests discuss practical strategies for up-leveling every aspect of your life. From developing good habits and organizing your space to refining your mindset and personal goals, we're going to explore it all. Our guests share personal stories about the systems they developed or systems they've used and the tweaks they've made in their lives when refinement was needed, allowing them to truly shine. Listen to Refine and Shine to learn how you can implement continuous improvement techniques in your daily routine, develop and maintain healthy habits that lead to success and satisfaction, organize your life to reduce the stress and increase your productivity, foster a growth mindset that propels you to new heights. My mission is to inspire you to take bold action, make positive changes, and become the best version of yourself. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, Refine and Shine is your guiding light. With over 25 years of experience in continuous improvement, I help businesses streamline their processes, establish efficient work areas, and implement standard work protocols. I have trained over 600 individuals and teams in process improvement, optimizing workflows, and enhancing overall operational efficiency. Tune in every week as we embark on an enlightening journey, exploring paths to refinement and illuminating the way to shine in every area of our lives. Subscribe now and join us on this journey to polish your life and let your best self shine through. Thank you for joining us on Refine and Shine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Refine and Shine. I'm super excited to have my guest today. In fact, I'm so excited because a couple of years ago, my first podcast I ever was a guest on was her podcast. So I'm super blessed in how it goes twofold.
Full circle.
Full circle, correct. So I have my friend Laura Ard on here today, and I just want to read a little bit about who she is and what she's about. Laura embraced her calling as a life coach, dedicating herself to helping women reclaim their voices and heal through Christ after enduring seasons of mental or physical abuse. As a certified Christian life coach and Voice Unbound 180 Method life coach, she guides women to release buried hurts and pains, reclaiming their anchor in Christ, the true anchor of life. She also coaches women in launching their own podcasts, empowering them to use their God-given voices to impact their listeners. Laura is a beacon of hope and empowerment, a devoted mom, loving wife, mother of 4, and proud grandmother to 13 grandchildren and 1 great-grandson. Laura's voice resonates throughout the airways on her podcast, Voice Unbound. Here she shares women's stories of hope and resilience. She makes sure that every moment counts, inspiring others to do the same with grace and faith. So welcome, Laura. I'm so excited to have you here today.
I am so blessed to get to do this. I mean, I'm like, am I really going to be on your podcast? This is so cool because when we spoke and you were on my podcast, I don't know, it was probably in your head that you wanted to have one, but I don't know that we spoke a lot about it. And then just how God has brought us together and to be able to see yours come about and be all it is today. I mean, I just love your podcast, and getting to be here on it with you is such a blessing.
Well, thank you so much. And yes, at that time, it was not something I had thought about. I was more thinking of the mental wellness
Right.
and helping families. And this is a platform that I can do this the same way, but I can get more audience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, the podcast does help us use our voices. And that's something that's so important to me in my life, being able to use your voice, because at one time my voice was silenced. And through circumstances that I had allowed myself to get into in a marriage, it became very silent. I had just let him run over me and take away my voice and not stand up for myself. And I stayed in that for 15 years, Angelina. I didn't walk away from it. And what in that time, what happens, I lost my identity and who I was, my identity in Christ. I didn't know who that was anymore. And I have a relationship with God. I'm a preacher's daughter. I've been in church all my life, and going to church every weekend. Even in that marriage, we were full time in church, involved, but I was living a life where nobody knew really what was going on in my home. I made it look good. I made everybody think everything was great because why? I wasn't using my voice. I was lying. I was making fibs about things and, oh, we're great and we're active in church, so it's all okay. And I'm going to change him. He's going to turn out better. He's going to learn that this isn't how we treat women. That didn't work. And so after 15 years, I finally, after one simple thing that was so ridiculous, I got out of it. I took the time and said, okay, God, if you'll give me the strength, I'm making this decision now and I'm leaving this marriage. I'm a preacher's daughter and I was the first divorce in my family. And so that was a very hard decision to make. I didn't want to leave my family like that, and my children. I had two children, divorce, no matter what it is not nice. It hurts people. It hurts your family. It hurts the kids. But I knew the longer I stayed, the worse things were going to get. And this was not how God intended for a marriage to be. So I stepped away and I actually stepped into the next bedroom. I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what I was going to do because I had been so told all those years that I was worthless, that I would never amount to anything. I could never survive on my own. And when you're pounded that in your head over and over, that's who you think you are. And I told my dad I felt like a piece of crumbled up piece of paper that was just being tossed around. And that's basically what I felt like. And so I stayed in my daughter's bedroom till I could figure out where to go. My son decided to stay with his dad. He was old enough. And I didn't want to force that. I wanted him with me, but I didn't want to force it. I was like, okay, you're making this decision. I figured in time he would change his mind. We left, found a place, started trying to figure out who I was again. Who's this girl that used to smile all the time and happy and going at it and just loving life. And I had totally lost all that, resilience and wanting. And so it took 2 years of just really focusing on that and also trying to raise a very rebellious daughter. I think the divorce, the life that we were living, just turned her so against of who she thought we were, and she didn't want to be that. So she took the path of not so good.
Mhm.
And um, after about 2 years, I decided maybe I should start dating again. Maybe I should try to meet somebody. I felt like I was becoming more of who I knew I was meant to be in Christ. And I was able to speak more about some things, but not really about how my life was. That was still kind of shameful. I still didn't want to tell a lot of people about that. So I put an ad in the paper. I just decided, hey, I'm going to meet somebody. Why not put it out there? I did try some of those dating app things. That didn't want for me. But I put an ad in the paper telling exactly what I was looking for about who I was. And I didn't put it in the like love ads, whatever. I put it in the want ads. And Tim, my current husband, saw that and he's like, I got to meet this girl. Somebody that's brave enough to put something out like that. And he read it and we talked on like a Friday and he met me on a Sunday at my dad's church. And I knew as soon as I saw him, I was like, that's the guy I'm going to marry. I just knew it and felt it. And within 2 weeks, he was asking me to marry him. And within 3 months, we were married. And so in March, will be 28 years. So, girls, if you ever get in a relationship and you get out of a terrible relationship, don't ever think life is over. But first and foremost, find yourself again. Get centered with God again. Find your voice and know that you were created for a purpose and for more. And so I made sure of that I had gotten myself back before I got into a relationship. That was 2 years of seeing nobody, doing none of that, no relationship whatsoever. And so God bless this. He gave me someone so genuine and what marriage was created to be. And so that has been such a joy in my life. We get to travel. We did all kinds of crazy, fun things together. Then God saw fit for me to raise two granddaughters and raise teenagers again. I'm like, are you sure, God? You want me to raise girls and teenagers again? I mean, I don't feel like I did such a hot job with the first round, you know? But no, we knew that we were being called to do that. And so I had to come off the road and stay home and raise the girls while he was traveling and come home on weekends. And it worked. We did that for 8 years, 8 years doing that. And then they went their way. And I said, I'm back out on the road with you. I've got to be back out there doing this because that's what we love, working together. Yes, I like being with him 24/7. It's a great combination. You know, we're like best friends. And so we got that all straightened out and I got back out on the road with him. And it had been going really good. We had been working really hard, probably more than we needed to be working. We were just pushing ourselves and pushing ourselves. And everybody's like, why do you even have a house? You're never home in it. You're on the road all the time. But, you know, God just kept providing, kept providing. And August a year ago, life took a major pivot. And you don't always expect these things. You know, they happen to people, but you're like, "Ah, we're good. We're going along. We're fine, you know?" And I knew my husband was getting sick, and I kept telling him something was off for almost a year, and I could just feel it. And in August, I was like, we were in Massachusetts, actually New York, and then had to go to Massachusetts. And I said, we got to go home. You're not well, and I don't feel right about this. And you can barely get from point A to point B. I said, I've called the doctor already, and he's going to see you Saturday. And so we started our trek home, and we wound up having a wreck on the way home and totaled the front of the RV. And that was like, Lord, why? What are we doing here? We've got to get home. And that was at 10 o'clock at night. And I said, we're packing this Jeep Renegade Gladiator, actually. And so we're going to pack it with 5 dogs because we had all of them and as much personal belongings as we could in the vehicle. And I said, I'm driving us home. And we had 6 hours to go. And so I got us home. He drove for about an hour and then I drove all of it and got home about 5 that morning. He rested for about an hour. I got ready, got him to the hospital or to the doctor and, you know, a couple of tests and he was like straight to the hospital and was admitted. And about in that week's time, we found out he had stage 4 colon cancer and also heart failure. His heart was only operating at 35%. And that was just a mind blown, mind blown. You're sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, you're self employed and your business just stopped completely. And we lived in a 4,000 square foot home. We had land, you know, like we're not going to be able to manage this and no job. And we didn't want to lose it. But, you know, in the back of your head, you've always said, this is our last place we're going to live. This was home. We didn't want to go anywhere else. And nope, God saw fit for us to, no, Laura, you've got to put it up for sale. I'm like, okay. And so we did. And we thought, well, it'll take time to sell it. That's a big house, all that land. We're just not going to sell that quick. First person that looked at it bought the house. That meant I had like what, 40 days, 30, however long it gives you to get out of the house. Had sweet friends jump in and help big time with us getting things organized and rid of. When you live in a 4,000 square foot home, you accumulate too much stuff. And I had realized that. And I'm like, why? Why do I have all this? Every closet full, everything, you know, and we're going into a 1,100 square foot home, major rid of. And so we did, and had a really great sale. Lord blessed us in that, getting rid of everything. And everything just took place. God was in all the details of us moving from into this home and getting settled with a man that just had major surgery and doing all this stuff and his health staying up long enough for him to be able to do. Um, that made me start really thinking hard about money because Angelina had not always been very good with my money. I knew that we made the money, I spent the money. I knew he'd pay the credit card off. I just spent it, you know, and he'd have that little talk with me. Might want to watch what you bought this week. I was like, yeah, okay, next month I'll do better. I'd spend again. And it was again all the stuff that you don't need. But I started looking at my finances and just thanking Lord for every penny I had and how I would be more utilizing that money now and not just being mind-blowing spending, and that every penny was going to count this time because we didn't have very much coming in, but we still have bills coming in. We have an RV that's getting repaired in Virginia. We had a payment on that. You still have insurance. You still have all the things, you know? And January, I think I sat down with the Lord and I said, okay, I have hidden talents. I know I have them. What are they? Show me. I need to start utilizing them because I buried them and I wasn't using them because I focused all on our job, doing that, you know? And he started opening doors so amazingly because I said, I don't want to go out into the work field. I want to work from home so I can be with him, you know, because he's chosen not to do chemo. So, you know, every day I'm grateful for that I have with him. Um, and the Lord started opening doors with my podcast coaching. What a blessing that has been. I don't get teary-eyed, but it has.
It's you didn't even mention we didn't even mention your podcast coaching in the bio. It's
Yeah.
another thing. You have
Yeah. It's
so
a
many
gift.
amazing things that
It's
God
a,
has gifted you with.
yeah. It's such a gift. And I can't thank him enough for what it's done and is doing. The privilege to get to work with these women is just such a blessing. And I'm not a pro. I'm not someone that's known this stuff. I started from the beginning, but that was the whole thing. It was helping women like me that don't feel like they're capable, but yet they are, and using their voice in a powerful way and changing lives and helping their listeners, you know, through certain things. And so I mean, I'm in my fourth year with my podcast starting, and it's just incredible because that man in there said, "Hey, start a podcast." And I'm like, "What?" And then, of course, Brooke, you know, they're all saying, "Start a podcast." So being able to help in that arena has just been so fun and learning a lot myself through you guys. You know, y'all have taught me so much and still teaching me. And then I had the opportunity of doing some graphic designs and things for people for a realtor and stuff. She brought me on and just little creative things, you know. Again, don't feel like I'm a pro at it, but it was a talent. Lord says, yeah, you can do that. Do it. That's going to put income in your house. And then the estate sale business. This was something in my lifetime in Connecticut that I did when I was married into that family. My ex-father-in-law was an auctioneer. So I had learned a lot of things in that arena of an estate sale. And so another friend of mine here who helped me with mine said, hey, do you want to do this? And I said, let's try it. And so we did, and we have been so blessed. I mean, that's incredible income, you know,
Mhm,
coming into my home to help pay bills and pay for the things in life that he's leading me into. And
mhm.
that's where, you know, I did have some life certification coaching. It's been 3 years already. And we were looking at that the other day. And that was just such a neat experience to go through that coaching. Because back in the day, I didn't know what a coach was. I had no idea what, you know, having a coach, being a coach, what that could mean. And it has been so cool over the past 5 years to be in that atmosphere of coaches and being coached and now becoming a 180 method coach. Um, I just thank God every day that I get to wake up and get this opportunity to share with women and to help women find their voice and find their identity in Christ because it's so valuable. We lose it through motherhood. We lose it from our work. We lose it from being a wife, you know, all those things. And then we're trying to figure out what do we do now because we don't even know who we are anymore. And so, you know, through a relationship, you may lose it. You know, it's just different ways that we lose ourselves in all that. And so through the 180, we're going to go into some deep healing methods that teach you how to release that and be able to um, be more in the being and your walk with God. That's the most important thing. You know, he has so many great promises for us. If we will just allow him in and to work through us. I mean, that's my prayer every day. God, just work through me, not let it be of me, but of you, because that's the purpose of me being on this earth is to live for him and to share that about him with others so they can feel that. You know, that just excites me to know that they can have that walk and live in their purpose. I mean, our divine purpose is love, you know, loving each other and loving through all the circumstances. I'm in a hard right now, but I'm so blessed at the same time.
I love what all the things you shared, and I have so many questions for you right now. But the first thing
Oh,
I want to start with is you had to make a decision in the
mhm.
first part of your life. You had to make a decision after being in the circumstances that left you voiceless, left you without being able to know what was right or wrong, or you may have known some stuff was wrong, but you were didn't want to. to expose, we can say, or shine light on the things that were killing you, like
Mm,
inside, that you were losing. And it was the first person in your family to get a divorce. And I remember growing up, there was a lot of divorce in my family. And in fact, we didn't really know many marriages that succeeded in my family. But I was raised Catholic, and it was told, if you divorce, you're a sinner. And
mm,
I like would you would hear this stuff, and I would be like around all my family. I'm like, we're all just sinners.
all
And it was
sinners.
like I felt bad of like, but
Hmm.
as a child, I was like, I just felt like, gosh, we're bad. But then I realized we're all sinners, right?
Yes.
But you had to make that decision, and I know it wasn't easy. And then you have your daughter, and then your son was with your ex. I'm sure that was very
It was
hard as a
very hard.
parent.
Hmm.
um but how does somebody who's wondering, like, what is the tips or guidance you could give to somebody? And I'm not saying that necessarily on divorce or anything, but how do you decide if you need to leave a relationship? What are the things that you would walk them through as a coach?
Well, I think main thing that I learned so quickly and looking back over my life is when we were getting married, start noticing the behaviors. Because, when you first get together, everything's so lovey-dovey, everything's so good. But you've got to look at behaviors and think about what it is you really want in a relationship. I think too many women don't take that time to think about what you expect out of that relationship. What are you wanting your person to be like? How are you wanting them to treat when you may do something? Go ahead and play that scenario in your head. What if I forget something? How is he going to react to that? I mean, I know you can't play them all out, but there's some major ones like that. And I started seeing signs just before we got married. He had a fit about something, and I was like, oh, it's just nerves because we're getting married and we were getting married out of town. So we were all kind of stressed out. So I excused it. So that's what we start doing. That's one.
Making excuses.
And then the next time, it was my fault. That's your next thing you say. I need to do better. I need to change that behavior because obviously he's seeing something I'm not seeing in myself. So then you start chipping away who you are because now you're becoming and making yourself form to who you think you should be for him. And so then you don't say anything. I would go off and not, if I said anything, then it would escalate. So then what? You start being quiet and you don't say something. And this can be with a best friend. Okay. I've been there. It doesn't have to be with a spouse. This could be with
Right.
some friend in your life that is slowly taking away parts of you that inside this isn't what you want, but yet you keep trying to hold on to that friendship. I kept trying to hold on to that marriage. I love this man. I'm supposed to love everything about him. I'm supposed to be his wife. I'm to continue on. So start keeping record of like, okay, wait, whoa, that's a red flag. Am I wanting to live like this? Is this
Mhm.
really how I want my life? And then those red flags start piling up and they get worse. They don't get better, they get worse. And then it becomes whatever. I never knew what was going to set him off, ever. It could be the simplest thing. And when I finally made that decision to leave him, you know what it was over? Hey, hun, I think I'm going to sell Tupperware. And now it's online and I don't have to go out of the house to sell it because that was another thing. I couldn't go anywhere. And if I went somewhere, he had a list of names and he would start calling them. Have you seen Laura today? Do you know where Laura is? So I never he would rig my car when I couldn't even crank it to leave somewhere.
Mm.
So there's so many things that I just kept letting pile up because why? I had sunk myself so far down of who I was. I didn't know how to get back up. I didn't know how to climb back out of that.
Right. I think that's so important. And like and it's like any relationship. Maybe it's a friend, even
Mm-hmm.
family members, is that
Mm-hmm.
when they treat you in this certain way and hold you back from being who you truly are, you
Mm-hmm.
need to look at those red flags. And if it's like you're walking on eggshells every time you're around, and you
Yep.
like a question's asked, or you're in a group setting, you want to kind of like raise your hand, but you're like scared because of
Yeah.
that person. Those are all red
All
flags.
red flags.
I just recently ended some relationships with some people
Mm-hmm.
because of things like that. It was like I
Mm-hmm.
can't be who I am made to be and who God made me because they're hindering that, and I just need
Mm-hmm.
to close the door. And it's important to remember that everybody's in your life for maybe a season.
Mm-hmm.
Um and maybe it's to teach you a lesson, maybe it's, but people that you have friendships with or family members, they don't always have to be there forever just
No.
because it's not that way.
No.
God gives us the people that we need, and God also tells us who we don't need.
Right, right. And I had to walk through that thing. I mean, he'd be coming up at the driveway home from work, and all three of us would go on eggshell alert, because he was going to come in and white glove the furniture to see if I cleaned it right, or look at the bathtub to see if I cleaned it right, or, all those little things. And the kids are right there in the midst of it. And a lot of time, my son got the brunt of it. He would actually physically abuse him, but he mentally abused me. And I had things thrown at me, and I had a gun pulled at me twice, those kind of things. But you just keep hanging on because you keep thinking we're strong women. We can change them. We can make things better. And then you get fearful. Where am I going to go? That was my whole thing. Well, I don't have any money. How? Because it's all his. Where do I go? And, fortunately, my parents moved into the pastorium and I got to move into their home. And then I had an apartment for a while, but it was figuring all that out. It was scary. And that's a lot of times women don't have that confidence and belief in themselves that they can get past it. And then God can bless you in a beautiful way if you start walking and finding yourself and start the healing process. It's just incredible after. It's
And
not
that,
so nice during.
well, that reminds me of, was it Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, where it trusts in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding, and he'll,
Outstanding. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
submit to him, and he'll direct your paths. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know the whole
Yeah.
thing
Yeah. But
by
I know
heart.
what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so just you got to put your trust into him, and then he's going to
Mm-hmm.
guide you. And I think that the next part of it thing is that to the present, I love that that's how you found Tim, and that he was looking at the
Yeah.
help wanted ads, and I mean, like wondering like
Yeah.
what kind of job he was
What's this
looking for.
girl? He's just reading them.
And I think it's cool that when you talked, you didn't you guys went to church for your first meeting.
Mm-hmm.
That that's where you had your meeting at. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
so amazing. But with him getting sick and all the things, I mean, I know that it was such a hard thing. And
Mm.
I remember that night so vividly because you had been in our message chat and telling us, and you were really worried. And then the
Mm-hmm.
next picture that night was the car
RV.
accident, the
Mm-hmm.
RV because of traffic being crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you guys had to downsize. And I think that sometimes people just want to hold on to things so much.
Mm.
And God tells us, like, we don't need to be greedy with our possessions. Like, we don't
Mm-mm.
need it. You don't need all these things. And so sometimes people don't understand that you need to make the decision to get rid of things and
Mm-hmm.
declutter. And I think that's something that you need to do often.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell me how that was like. And because now not only
Whew.
did you learn how to do the decluttering and get rid of things, you're now helping people with their estate sales getting rid of things.
Yeah,
So
and you know
tell
what?
me.
I was just telling somebody today what a blessing. I feel like the Lord again put me in this place because I've not been one to like I gotta have it, I gotta have it, gotta hold on to it kind of thing. I really in a few years back I had stopped keeping cards because I had stacks of cards. Anytime anybody sent me a Christmas card, whatever, I kept them. I thought, why? Why am I holding on to this paper? I've got it in my brain. I remember who sent it. It's in my heart. I need to release it. It needs to go away. I think the hardest thing was Stacy came to help me, and I just love that girl. She came and I didn't even really know her, but she said, "I'm coming to spend 3 or 4 days with you to help undo the house." I was like, "What? Okay." And so she came in, flew in, and we were buzzing through each room, and I just was basically just doing it. I was just going through the motions because I was so numb from hearing, "Here's my husband with 2 illnesses, and we're leaving our home, our dream home," and I just started throwing stuff in the box, and we got to the bathroom. I'm a crier if you didn't know that. But there was one pillow that was my mom's. And I held on to that stinking thing forever. I thought, why? I'm not going to use it. It sits in a closet. Why am I holding on to it? And Stacy said, say your goodbyes and let's release it. And so I did. And, it was so silly to think about how that still impacts me. But it's things like that you have to walk through in order to
Mhm.
heal,
Yep.
in order to grow, because I've grown so much since that big move. I remember rushing around here trying to get this house we're in now, and my awesome realtor who they redid this house. It was, if you'd seen it from day one, that we only had so many days to get in it. You would have thought there's no way they're going to get in that house. And they busted tail to get us in here. And I remember I was thinking how I'd always at the other place thank God for every part of that place. And I realized I hadn't thanked him for here
Mhm.
because it was putting me in a neighborhood and around people. And I hadn't been that. We've had seclusion. We'd had, really nice place. And this is a beautiful place. And I went out on my porch and I just lifted my hands thanking him because if it hadn't been for him and those people in my community, who knows where we'd be living in our RV, which, we pretty much did that, but we needed a home base with my husband. We needed a place for
Yes.
him. And we were able to be mortgage free and prepared for whatever's to come, manageable, this home. And so I stood out there just thanking him for this, and being in all the details of putting us in a home. But now I get to experience this with these poor people that are going through that same feelings. This last weekend, the lady was just, bless her, by herself in her 70s, downsizing to a tiny home, had a gorgeous, gorgeous home, having to get rid of all her stuff. And I just kept telling her, I can feel this. I know what you're feeling and I know it's hard. And we're going to do the best we can for you to find good people buying, get it in good homes, get us rid of as much as we can for you. And she had a meltdown. It was hard for her. And then she finally was okay and released it and walked away. Because I always tell them, you can't be here while we do the sale because you're attached. And while people are looking at your stuff and touching your stuff, you're not going to like it.
Mhm.
So, I feel like God put me in that place for a purpose again, for a season, because he knew I needed the money. And he also knew that I could minister to these people and shine light, shine light, on these people.
I think that's so important. And I love how, people just think it's just an estate sale. It's not just an estate sale.
No,
Like there's things behind it. There's people, there's attachments.
so much.
We're all attached to things. And it's like, but we got to ask those questions. Do we really need this? Does we need this taking up space?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so freeing to declutter, because or get rid of things we no longer like. Thank you for its time. Thank you for what
Mm-hmm.
it served me for. But I don't need to dust this cup that I don't use because it's a
Use
collector's
another
cup.
1,000 times. Yeah.
Like I was at Starbucks. I used to love Starbucks cups
Mm-hmm.
and love them. And I know that there's a lot of people that collect them. And if you do, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I love the purples and I love the greens. And right now it's Halloween, right? So,
Yeah.
the season. And so I was at the airport and there was all these glow in the dark and all these things. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
I love
gosh.
them. And that would be so great, but I wouldn't use it. So why do I
Yeah.
need it? And I was so proud of myself. And I've been doing that a lot lately. It's like, I don't need these things because
Mm-hmm.
eventually I want to downsize and get rid of
Mm-hmm.
things too myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to be able to enjoy life and not
Yeah.
spend it dusting and moving and cleaning and all these
Yep.
other things. And I think that's so important. And it's something that maybe just because we're in the season we're in life is that we can be
Less
okay
is
with
more.
yeah, less is more, and we can be okay with letting go of things um that we don't use. And so when my grandma passed, a lot of people wanted different things and stuff. And I was very careful on what I selected. And what I selected was things that I knew I was going to use.
Mm-hmm.
Um I took her mouse, like
I
her
love it.
computer mouse,
Yeah. Yeah.
um because I wanted to, like, it's a reminder and I use it. You can't see it right now, but the light that I'm using, that is her desk lamp
Oh,
light.
so cool. Yeah.
So it was things that I could use
Mm-hmm.
that would remind me of her,
Mm-hmm.
but it also wouldn't take up a lot of space. And then I got these, like, she had I don't know what she did with these or how she got them, but it was like wine racks or casings or something.
Uh-huh.
And I use those when I do vendor events. Use those type of things. Those are the boxes I use are her
Oh,
things.
cool.
And so those are the things that I took. It was
Yeah,
like
you
stuff
made
that I
sure you
knew.
were going to have something to do with it before you just brought it and put it in the closet. Yeah.
Mhm. I
And
was
there's
very
no point in
strategic.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what, we made sure the kids got what they wanted out of the house because we're
Mhm.
like, okay, there's things here from your grandparents, like on
Mhm.
Tim's side, and come get it because we have nowhere to store things here. Nowhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
Closets are much smaller. We had to get two outbuildings. And again, I was in my outbuilding thinking, I got all this stuff in here. I haven't pulled out any of the decorations because I was decorating every season, you know. I
Mhm,
haven't pulled a one out. Now, I will. I really feel
mhm,
I will because I do miss it, but I just haven't done it because just the way things are right now,
mhm.
you know. I got a little
Yeah.
cute crystal tree this week. And that's another thing. Working these estate sales, you get some
Yeah.
nice stuff. And I
Yeah.
got this cute little crystal tree, and I said, this will probably be our Christmas tree this year. And he
Mhm,
just smiled because it's, I mean, that's all we need,
mhm.
really. So, and I got me a pink blazer. I'm so excited.
Oh, I can't
If
wait
you
to see.
know, for
Yeah.
conferences and everything, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is so cool because she's the same size. And so she's like, here, try this on. Here, try this. She was so excited for me to get some of her clothes. But yeah, it's just, I'll take stuff out now that I got more stuff. I'll have to clean out some of my clothes. I go ahead and send them and donate them.
That's one thing I did get. There was a jacket and so they had gotten by the time we got to my grandma, like got to go through the house and stuff, they had gotten rid of a lot of her clothes. They got rid of all her clothes, but there was some
Yeah.
stuff that they forgot. And so I did get a sweater and I wear
Oh,
that often.
yeah.
In fact, I've worn it several to the line things, that long
Okay.
cream sweater.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my grandma's.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I got a coat too. So it's just, you have to
Yeah.
think about those things. How
Hmm.
much does it really mean? Is it going to have a purpose? Are you going to be able to use it? Or is it just going to be stuck in a closet till you die and go and somebody else has to deal with it? You know?
Well, that's another thing is that we've been thinking about like what when we don't want the kids to have to go through all our stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so we got to prepare.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things I also liked about what you said was, even though you didn't say it, but I know this is something that happened, is that as you let go of your house, which was beautiful and it was an amazing house, but what your house that you have now is such a beautiful place as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what was you recently you had such a beautiful event happen there that I don't think that you
Oh,
ever thought you could have there.
nope.
And can you want to talk a little bit about how that was so
And it's
special?
so funny because at the house we were at was a perfect place for that event.
Hmm.
But yet it didn't happen there. And I'm like, okay. And so my granddaughter had sent a message, about the beginning of August, no, end of July. She said, hey, me and Michael are going to get married. We're going to get married on August 8th. And we're going to go to the courthouse and we're going to go to a courthouse that's 2 hours away because they'll allow 20 people in the courtroom. I said, oh, cool. Okay. All right. Good. And I said, that'll be awesome. We'll probably go the night before. So it's not a lot on him and we can be there. And she had got this gorgeous wedding dress. And I started thinking, I'm like, she's not gonna wear the dress. And she wanted grandpa to walk her down the aisle. And I'm just like, okay, Lord, I'm gonna tell her and offer, but I don't want her to think I'm trying to tell her what to do. It's her day. And so I said, okay, I've got a thought. I had a dream last night, and I could see a tent pitched back here at this house and have your wedding here. And you wear your dress and you have grandpa walk you down the aisle like you want. She just lit up. And I said, you talk to Michael. I'm not pressuring. It's just an offering from us. And she called me back the next day and she said, yeah, we want it. We want to do that. And we can have more people. They still kept it like 50, they didn't want a huge
Hmm.
crowd. And found the tent people, great people, came and set the tent up in a perfect spot in my yard. I mean, it's
Hmm.
like you never think of having a wedding here.
Hmm.
And she had Grandpa walk her down the aisle, and then she asked me to be her matron of honor. And I'm like, what? I said, you've got all your girlfriends. Let them be that. I'll be here. She says, no, you are standing beside me because you are my person. And I'm like, okay. So I got to be in her wedding. It was just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, she planned it to a T. Everything went really well. It was right people here. But that was another God thing. He had that all set for it to happen here. So it made this place even more special.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And I think that, and I was like, I got chills
Yeah.
when you said, I didn't know that you
And
got
I
to be
cried a
her.
lot
Yeah.
because I can. I cry. Oh, happy, sad, all of it.
But it's just a think like what, and it was almost a year. If I'm thinking it was
Yeah,
a
it
year
was.
to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. A
a
year
year
since
later.
everything happened. We moved in here November 2nd.
Hmm.
But still, all in
The
that year
news.
when we were getting everything, yeah, everything happening. And she was afraid to just go a lot longer in the marriage and waiting to
Hmm.
get married. She
Hmm.
wanted her grandpa to walk her down the aisle. So,
Hmm.
she made sure that happened. And he did all the photography, he did everything. So that made it even more special for her. And Michael, he's so good.
I think that's amazing. I think that that's such a, it's like we have to go through um ups and downs in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we can
Mm-hmm.
find the beauty in the
Oh,
things that
so
we never
much.
thought were possible.
Right?
And even though, you had your dream house and everything, yes, you are now in a different house,
Mm-hmm.
but you're debt free with
Yeah.
that no mortgage, and you got to have your a wedding, the
Yeah.
celebration of
My first
a new
granddaughter.
beginnings. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what's so important is that sometimes we just hold on to things because and we just have to sometimes let go and release and
Mm-hmm.
make room for what's beautiful to come.
Yeah, yeah. And his promises are good for us, right? He
Right.
promises good. And I hold on to that. Even in this hard, I know he has a good things for me to come. And he's been preparing me. I mean, I would have never told you in the hardest time with the lowest amount of money coming in that I would be paying for becoming a coach. You know that's an investment.
Yeah.
But I asked God, okay, Lord, if you want me to do this, then you're going to have to bring the cash in because I want to be able to pay for this and do it right and
Mhm.
earn it, truly earn it. And he is. He is. And so that's what I'm saying. He's powerful. If you will just lean into him. Now, I told you in those first 15 years of my life of marriage, I had a relationship with God, but I didn't fully lean into it and
Mhm.
trust him and let him lead me in that. And you've got to do that.
I think it's so important too is that there's, like you've been a friend of mine, which we didn't even talk about how long we've met, but
Yeah, it's been a
we've been
while.
friends it's for a while, and we think, thankfully we've met by putting ourselves into rooms
Hmm.
and putting ourselves into, I don't even if we met through one of Brooke's online communities at first. I
Hmm.
don't even remember.
I think it
But
was.
we just became friends, and I say that we're
Hmm.
great friends.
Yes.
And it's so important to put yourself into rooms and build relationships with people. We do not live near each other. She is
No,
on the
we're
East Coast, I
way
am on the
across
West
this
Coast.
world.
Yeah.
Yes. Feels so
we get
far away. But
we get
yet
excited.
that
Yeah.
closeness that we can feel just by being online with each other
Mhm.
is just amazing. And people don't get that. And I was thinking too, I asked God, I said, all right, now that I'm home, I want to be in those rooms. I want to go
Mhm.
once a month. I want to be in a room somewhere, somehow, either virtual or be there. And
Mhm.
he's done that. He's put me somewhere every single month. And I'm just like, okay, this is just too cool. If you open up your heart and ask, he
Yeah.
provides. He
Yes.
provides.
And it may not always look the way that you think it should look like,
Right.
but
Right.
he knows the way it needs to look for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so when I took this job last year, when I was thinking about this job or had applied and then I finally got the offer, and the way that the sunrise looked that morning, because just looked and it was so
Yeah.
beautiful and I knew that
y-
God was behind us. But I
Yeah.
tell you, it has not always been easy.
No.
This journey that I'm on, used to a certain paycheck and a certain
Mm-hmm.
amount and being able to work overtime and all these things, and it
Mm-hmm.
has not been easy, but I know that God is behind it. And even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm very stressed sometimes on how things are going to work out, I
Yeah.
have to trust in him. And you just reminded me of that. Like I have to continue to trust because
Mm-hmm.
he didn't place this opportunity for nothing, for me to lose
No.
everything.
No.
Like
You're
he
learning through this about something that he's
Mhm.
preparing you for even
Yeah.
bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's so important. And so, and I'm love that you're doing this coaching to help people look at life in a different way and do the healing of it. And
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about your coaching program and what it's all about and what you do for people.
Okay, so the 180 method, is going to take you how so many times in life, I think we've heard the thing, the 360, just 360, but what does it do? It brings you right back to where you are. And yeah, maybe for a minute it felt great, but you're back on that same path. And the 180 is going to veer you off. You're going to go off that path and you're going to go into the place where you need to be until in order to heal. And so in this program, I have a couple of options. We have group programming where they can do 12 weeks of coaching under a group. And it's only going to be about 4 to 6 people in the group because we like to keep it intimate where we can
Mhm.
really connect. I have two options in that where they can do the group coaching or they can throw in some 3 one-on-ones during that time. And then also have one-on-one that's for 6 months and we meet once a week. And it's just a great way to walk through some different obstacles that you've had in your life. And with me, it was something when I went through it a couple years ago, I kept telling Alejandra, I I don't have anything that I really need to work on because I felt like I had really stepped through all that stuff and did okay. And she's like, well, let's talk. And so I did. And when I decided, I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to go through this so that I can learn about the program. And that'll be good for me. Because, I was into all this coaching stuff and learning about things. So I said, it's just another stepping stone to learn something. And I didn't know that it was going to bring something that I had buried so deep inside of me that I was like, wow. When she takes you back and through a meditation time and where you go sit down with yourself when you were younger. And it doesn't have to necessarily be something sad or hard. It could be something good and happy when you were young. But it took me back to when I was 13 and an incident that had happened to me. I had told no one, didn't tell my dad, didn't tell a best friend, didn't tell no one. Again, at that age, my voice being silenced. And I lived with that all those years till 2 years ago. And when that came up, I was like, okay, I got to tell my husband. I got to talk about this. And so that was the biggest release. And my word that year was freedom. And I got freedom. And it's because I made the decision to go through a healing process that I didn't think I needed. And so when you make that decision, it takes making a decision. You can't just halfway do it. You've got to decide that's what you want. And so that's what I want to do for women. I want them to be able to use their voice, find their voice. They know they have, but have been silenced through different situations that have happened and occurred in their life, and also their identity in Christ and their walk with God and renewing that. A lot of people have it like I did, but they didn't have a true one-on-one connection and living in that human side where we react to everything instead of in the being where we're working and walking in his calling. And that's what I hope to offer and bring to them.
I think that's so important is that you said you had to make the decision. And we
Mm-hmm.
all know what decide or decision means. Decision means it comes from the Latin word, I forget what it's called, decidere or something like that,
Yeah.
which means to cut off, to determine. And that's something
Yeah.
that's really important is that so many times we can't we don't make a decision
We
and we
don't make
really
decisions.
and we need to make a decision
Yeah.
and make a commitment to make that decision and get some clarity and then take action.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. I do different types of coaching, and one of the things in my time management is I tell people you want to do this, but we got to get some clarity and decide
Yeah.
on what you really want to spend your time on.
Right. Right.
You say you don't have time, but give me your time audit, give me your screen time, and let's literally
Mm-hmm.
see, do you not have
Mm-hmm.
time, or do we really need to decide on where you
Yeah.
spent your time on?
I get so excited seeing my screen time dropping. I'm like, yes, this is so good because I'm realizing more and more as especially after my walk to Emmaus that I did a couple of weekends ago, we couldn't bring our phones or have our watches. And when I came home, that was made me realize, I just don't need that connection constantly by me. And,
Hmm.
I'll go do things, leave it in my office now. I don't
Hmm.
carry it on me. I just go do whatever I got to do. I know it's in here. I can check messages when I come back in here. It's not, I don't have to answer it as soon as I see it, kind of thing. So that has been freeing. And, I like seeing that number come down because it gives me my weekly audit of how long I have been on. And it's like, wow, that was a big drop. I like that.
Can,
So,
can you tell me a little bit about the walk that you did, if you don't mind sharing a little bit
oh
about
my
that?
gosh, that walk to Emmaus, I had no clue what it was about. I had never been on it. My husband had years and years and years ago in the 80s. I think it was 90s, we figured. And my daughter-in-law invited me. She was my sponsor, which that was a beautiful thing in itself. And she picked me up. She said, I don't want you to anticipate about what's going to happen this weekend. Because you don't know. You go
Mhm.
into it blind. And
Mm.
that's scary for me because I'm one with it's got to kind of know the details and what's
Yeah.
happening. And I'm kind of like, are you sure I can't know anything? She's like, just, you're okay. You're going to be okay. And it's at a camp and you're basically like camp. I mean, you're in bunks, and stuff. And that was really cool because that was no problem. And I can't tell you all the details of it because
Mm.
if you ever do it, you don't need to know. But
Yeah.
you will be loved on, you'll be fed, you won't have a phone and you won't have a watch. You are totally in their hands. They'll tell you have this much time or this much time. And that's what you've got to run to the bathroom or whatever, that kind of thing. And you always just laughed. You're like, oh, I don't even know what time of day it is. I think I'm waking up at 4 or 5, but I don't know. And you kind of try to think in your head what time it might be because we're eating breakfast, we're eating lunch. But it was all different times. They didn't keep you on that kind of schedule. It was the most beautiful experience I've ever experienced. to connect even at a deeper level with God. You are fed scripture and word and testimonies and stuff. And I found as I walked into the cafeteria area where we ate, there was this wood carving at the door, and they dressed it up at everything for the whatever we were having. And it was a rooster. Well, I used to have chickens, and I was just like, oh my gosh, look at this carving. Well, Tim does carvings. I said, look at this cool carving. And I didn't think any more about it. And then I found out my husband carved that chicken back in 91,
Oh,
that
wow.
rooster. And
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, you've got to be kidding me. And then they were so tickled and thrilled to know that it was my husband that carved that. And so he came in so that he could get a picture with it because they wanted to document it and keep it on file. They had it. They've had it all these years. They dress it up all the time. And I bawled again, of course, like a baby, that here he is, this connection, my husband right here, but it was the most beautiful experience I've ever had in my life. You get little room drops and things. So I have angels that were given, with little scripture sayings, all kinds of cool things. So if you can ever sign up for it, they're in your area. They are all over the US. You just look up Walk to Emmaus, and they do women's, and they do the husbands the weekend before.
Okay.
So usually they like for the husband to go the weekend before, and then you go after. And that kind of gives y'all that connection to sharing that experience. Or you definitely go. It'll
I
be
love that.
something you will never forget.
Well, I love that you shared that. I think that's amazing. Um, as we wrap up, like how can before we go through your links and how they can get a hold of you, I wanted just to give my audience if you could think of one word, a phrase, or an action for them to do, a call to action and for them to refine and shine, something that they can do today. What would you tell them?
I think for them to do something, I found for me, again, something I started in January because, we do all these New Year's, but it has stuck. It's something I have found is before your feet even hit the ground in the morning, it's just to sit up and just have that moment with God before any of the other world things can come in at you. And I do deep breaths, inhale, exhale all the negativity out of my thoughts, ask for God to work through me in my day. If I'm praying for a new client to come, I ask for that. Praying for an estate sale to come, I ask for that. And my phone rings by that afternoon. My phone God answers. But taking that moment just to not sit there and journal or read, just that quiet of just being with him in the morning before your feet hit the ground. And you will see what a difference that day is. I mean, it's not going to be hard. Just take, maybe 5 minutes, however long you feel need to sit there, but just that talk with him and talk to him. It doesn't have to be, some professional thing either. Just have that conversation like we're sitting here having a conversation. He knows me well. I mean, I'm like, hey, Jesus, it's me again. That's how I talk to him. Here I am. I'm just coming to you raw. This is how I'm feeling today. Or thank you for that night's sleep. And I definitely thank him for one more day with that precious man in there. One more day. And so, if I can just tell your audience, try that for a week and see how your day goes.
I love that. That's so important. It's a good reminder to me, myself. And sometimes I jump up and I just start going. I mean, I have a routine I do, but I often find that I don't thank him right away in the morning. And I need to do that because I do thank him before I go to bed. But
Yeah.
I need to thank him in the morning
For
as
the
well.
morning. Yeah.
Yeah,
What a
before I
beautiful
even
day.
start.
Yeah.
Start anything. So thank you. I will take that as an action item for myself as well.
Awesome.
How can my audience reach you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Right now, I would say through Facebook, because I'm revamping everything and my new website hasn't launched yet. So I don't want to give out old information because it's fixing to go away in October. So we will say, Laura Ard. You can find me there. I'm on there. You can't miss me. Voice Unbound on Instagram is a great way. I am on LinkedIn. Also, it's Voice Unbound, Laura Ard. So any of that platform, I'll have all my information that way for you. So you can have those links in there. But yeah. You can get me.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate you being on and just love all the things you're doing and how God has put everything in plan the way it's supposed to be for you. And so it's such a blessing.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refine and Shine. We hope you find valuable insights and inspiration to fill your journey of continuous improvement. Remember, the key to success lies in refining your processes and letting your inner brilliance shine.
If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us reach more listeners like you who are eager to refine and shine in all areas of life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and additional resources and behind-the-scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to reach out with any suggestions, questions, or success stories you'd like to share. As we wrap up, remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Keep striving for growth, embracing change, and seeking opportunities to refine your skills. Together, let's continue to shine bright and make a positive impact in the world. Until next time, keep refining and keep shining.